Hey folks, welcome back to Good Enough Customs. So today we're actually going to get fired off on my son. We're going to get started on his K5 Blazer. There's Jackson hanging out right there, just waiting to get started. So we're going to get cracking on this. It's an 89 Chevy K5 Blazer. We picked this thing up. It was probably a year and a half ago. Found it pretty good price. I think we paid about $2,200 for this truck. It is exceptionally straight. I mean, there's a couple little dings up and down the side. The paint's crap, but it's pretty doggone straight. The worst spot we got is, looks like somebody got this mirror hung on a tree and it pulled this out, kinked that up. But I mean, body-wise, man, we are straight, mostly. And there's not a bunch of rot back here in the usual spots where they rot. There's no rot here where they like to go. Down here, the rockers are actually pretty doggone solid on this thing. And like I said, the body is just straight as hell. So so we picked this thing up about $2,200 and got it home last year. It had mice living in it, so we went ahead and gutted the interior, and that's when we discovered the reason why the guy was selling the darn thing, because it's got, you know, some crunchiness going on here. The passenger seat, it's got a little extra cushion built into it, so that way, you know, you don't feel them bumps so bad. Yeah, this floorboard is pretty destroyed. So yeah, we got, you know, standard holes back here in the back corner of the cab. You know, you can kind of see this is where they love to rot out, back in here. So it's all rotted out. Now you can see back over here. Ooh, bucket seat. So so we've got it pulled in the shop finally, and we've still got some more rust that we got to deal with and troubleshoot and figure out what's going on, where the water's coming in. Actually, I know where all the water's coming in. This thing basically has no gaskets left. So we found some of this. You know, this has been since last year. This wasn't this rusty, but sitting out in the weather, holding moisture inside the top, it's just kind of degraded a little bit further. We've already pulled some of the jute matting up that was glued down on the fender wells. That's the last little bit of carpet that we had. It was still stuck to that fender well over there. So we just pulled this top off the other day, and that's when we found the really bad news. And I am not a metal guy. Like, I can do some things with metal, but yeah, nobody makes this patch. So that's pretty bad. So we discovered that. This one, perfectly fine. No issue there. Oh, wait, we got another one. So we've got this. It's pretty bad. I mean, at least it's only in this top layer right there. And here it's down into the bottom layer. I gotta pull some of this trim off on the inside, see what it looks like on the back side. So we're going to end up having to cut out and make this panel, a little patch panel for that. This one's fine. This one's fine. Tops of the bed rails, they actually look just fine. You know, all in all, the truck's a really good truck. So all in all, the truck's a really good truck. It was kind of running when we bought it. The mice had gotten in here. It's a 350. It's not a Vortec. It's just the TBI 350. The mice had got in and chewed a few of the wires up, and previous owner had done some questionable repairs on those wires. So we'll dive into that later and get in under here, underneath the hood. Truck has no exhaust on it right now, but it did come with a brand new alternator. I want to say the power steering pump was new, and then I want to say the water pump was new or new-ish. So it had some good stuff going for it underneath the hood, but it did run and drive a little bit whenever we got it. We got it home. We drove it around for a little bit, just around the driveway in the yard before we parked it, and we went out to start it a few months ago, and it would not fire, and just come to discover the fuel pump's out. So I believe what we're going to do today is we're going to try to clean up some of this rust and just kind of get a better idea about what we got going on in here. Also, I've got to get with a buddy of mine and get some new inner panels here. He's got an old junk cab that he said I can come cut the panels out. So this is an example of what not to do if your striker bolt is getting loose. So they booger welded the hell out of this thing, and of course it's not quite in the right spot. And they also took out any and all, you know, adjustability to it. So rather than trying to undo this garbage, I'm going to take and a buddy of ours has, like I said, he's got an old junker cab up there, but it's got these panels are in pretty good shape. So I'm gonna take and just cut these pieces out of another cab, and then cut these pieces out of here and weld in just some fresh metal, or fresher metal that's not all boogered up. The passenger side was not welded up. It's the metal's actually all peeling out and just, you know, falling apart. So, and you can see driver's side pretty much the same as the passenger. It's pretty flimsy, pretty bad. A lot of rust. Surprisingly though, it's solid as crap right up in here. So but over here, no, not so much. So I believe one of our big things we've got to get done is cutting this old crap out so we can see if the cross members need to be replaced, and see if these kick panels over here need to be replaced as well. I don't know if they do or not, but we'll dig into that later. One of my bigger concerns in here is, here's the lower mount for the seat belt. So yeah, that was like that when we got the truck. Actually, no, it wasn't like that when we got the truck. It was on here, and I pulled on it, and it just ripped loose. So yeah, that completely disintegrated. So so I got to figure out how to make a patch for this, because this is yet another piece that nobody makes. I hit up a bunch of forums and stuff like that trying to find somebody that knew anything about a patch panel here, and nobody makes it. But so we got a little vent hole back here, you know, just big enough to stick your hand through, and it carries on back in here. I mean, we're missing this entire piece. It's just gone. So we'll join back up with you here in just a little bit, once we kind of get some of this bigger crap pulled out of the floor of this thing. We get some of this bigger stuff out and kind of clean it up a little bit, run the vacuum, and see where we are here. Maybe get some scraping done back over here on some of these really pitted spots where it's flaking up. So that way we can kind of get a better idea of what we need back here. I'm pretty sure I'm going to need some patch panels, specifically over there. I'm going to need a patch panel. It's got a hole just right there. There's a hole, and this entire fuel nozzle cover, it's rotted all around the base of it. It's pretty bad. And then I've got a few little pinholes and some weakness coming on over here. So, you know, we might have to get just 2 small patches for this little corner. And then, you know, I've got that's rotted up through the body mount bolt. So I don't know. I may end up just getting a whole rear panel, because I do make this entire rear panel piece. They also make it in halves as well. So I may just end up getting this one big old piece here and just cut it out and just have all fresh metal back here. So anyways, we'll catch up with you here in just a few minutes once we get some of this mess cleaned up. right, that's all done now. So definitely, you know, obviously this was already pretty rotten. But now we can see a little bit better. So, you know, all sorts of holes. A couple of really nice little stress crack right in here. I'm guessing that metal got good and weak and it's stressed out, just cracked, and you can see it also right there. But yeah, a lot of daylight down here. So yeah, got some rust repair to do. This was going to be fun. But back here in the back, I'm going to look and see. I'm not sure if they make just a small patch panel for over here or just this back piece, because right up here, it's actually not bad from about the back of the wheel wells forward. It's not terrible up there. But it is pretty crunchy back here. I mean, you can see this bolt is completely pulled through. Of course, got that hole there. Got this hole here, which means it's probably all sorts of rotted out under there. I'm already going to order a new filler nut cover. But we'll see. I'll see what parts are out there and what I can get. And, you know, worst case, I have to replace this whole back piece. Don't want to, but if that's what I got to do, that's what we'll do. And then over here on the passenger side, you know, it's not as bad as the driver's side. It's still, I mean, that part's really bad. But the passenger side did not catch the brunt of it. The driver's side definitely did. So anyways, that's kind of where we're at now. We'll dive more into this whenever we get closer to actually cutting metal out and getting all that stuff done. Right now, I just kind of want to get a lay of the land. And so now I think what we're going to do is climb up underneath this guy and get the fuel tank dropped. The fuel pump stopped working. So we'll probably go ahead and drop that tank and replace that fuel tank. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I may ought to check and make sure that the dang relay's even working. I think it's that relay right there. So anyways, we'll catch back up with you here in just a few minutes. All right, folks, here's what we got. So we got in here, put a fresh battery in this truck, and turned the ignition on just to see what was going on. We actually heard the fuel pump kick, and it actually cycled through every time we turned the key. So I'm thinking that I may have thought it was a bad fuel pump whenever it was just, you know, a battery that was, you know, dead or close to dead. So anyways, we fired it off, got it to crank. It cranks over okay. But what we noticed is coming out of the fuel injectors here, it's literally just dribbling. There's just a drop every once and again that's coming out of it. So I've actually got another 350 out of an 89 OBS truck that I'd pulled a few months ago, something like that, and still has all its TBI stuff on it, and its TBI all worked really, really well. There was no problem with that motor. As a matter of fact, I'm actually selling that motor to Crookenberg. But anyway, so what we're trying to do is troubleshoot these guys. I could pull this apart. I mean, this thing's nice and clean, so it may actually be a fairly new unit. It could be that the injectors are just garbage. So what I want to do is I've got that fuel injection, or this part of the throttle body, the injectors, off of that other 89 motor. It's not nearly as shiny and pretty as these, but they worked. They worked really well. So we're going to pull this off and switch it out with the other one just to see if it's something going on with these injectors. I mean, I've got a lot of fuel gathered in up here on the top, so I'm wondering if there's just something going on there. Yeah, so I'll see if there's something up there. Hopefully this works. It could still be the fuel pump just not going after that initial charge. But now that I'm looking around the shop, I've actually got all the stuff here. Mine is a couple little bitty pieces. I've got everything here that I could actually go ahead and convert this thing, take it off the TBI, get rid of the computer crap, and just drop a carburetor and everything on it, which is still an option. We may end up going that way, but I figure at least give it a shot and see if we can make this TBI work. So we'll check back in here in just a minute once I get that swapped out with the other one. I'm glad that happened. So the only thing I really need to do now is these wires are kind of boogered up, so I'm gonna clean them up. Probably find some shrink wrap, put around them, and make this, you know, put this all back together. So that just saves me a ton of work from having to worry about switching this guy over to a carburetor. Yeah, that's pretty much it for right now. So she's running, which is fantastic, and seemed to fire right off. Hey son, hop in there and turn it off. Turn it on over one more time. Let's make sure.
Make sure it just wasn't a lucky break.
Yep. Alright folks, so we got the kick panels off, and so it's not that bad. So we've got a little bit of rust and rot down in here. It's not horrible. So right down along this little edge. So what we'll probably end up doing is I'm not going to cut this piece out and buy another patch panel just for that. I should have some extra metal left over. I've got some laying around here in the shop. So what I'll probably do is just cut these little pieces out that's rotted up really good and just make my own little patches that go right in here. Shouldn't be too terribly difficult to do that. And then here on the floor, it's actually not terrible. It's a lot better than I thought it was. Initially, I thought we could just take and cut along this little line right here and just cut a big L shape out along this whole piece and just get this is rotted and this is rotted. But as I was kind of fiddling around in here just a second ago, you can kind of hear that. Yeah, we're a little crunchy right in here. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and replace the majority of this panel. So I'm gonna feel around and see. Yeah, we're eat up all in there. I mean, that's probably salvageable, but since we already have the piece, we might as well go ahead and cut out and do what we need to do. So I may go ahead and just take and cut this across and bring it down into this little valley here, and just bring it down here and just go ahead and cut this whole entire piece out. So anyways, we're going to oh yeah, that's pretty bad. Just flaking the metal off with your fingers. So what we're going to end up doing is going ahead and cutting all that out. So I'll throw it on a time lapse while we go cutting, and y'all guys can follow along. So we'll catch back up to you once we get this piece cut out. All right, as you can see, I took some, I got a grease pencil and just made a cut line right down through here. That's going to be the front panel. And then right in here is where this back panel comes in. And then I didn't figure I needed to trace it out because it's just at this base all the way back. And with this thing being as rotted as it is, I'm actually going to take it and cut it on across and just put a new piece of metal in right there. So, good. All right, and let's not forget, need some ear protection and some eye protection at the very minimum on this, because last thing you want is get a chunk of rust or a chunk of metal in the eyeball, because, you know, it hurts. And I've only done that a couple times. And then ears, because sometimes this thing gets loud and you don't want your ears ringing like crazy for hours afterwards. So we do have a cross member that runs across right here. So we have a cross member that runs around here. I want to say there's spot welds that have to be drilled out, but I honestly can't remember. So we'll come to that. You know, we'll get to that whenever we come to it. But you have this cross member here. There's another cross member that runs right along in here, and it may be spot welded down on it as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing cut, and we'll tackle the spot welds, you know, when we come to it. So here we go. Also, you may want to have some sort of water spray or fire extinguisher around because of the jute coating that's up on the firewall. That stuff likes catching sparks. So so we'll see. You know, we'll keep an eye on that and make sure we don't catch anything on fire. folks, so here's what we got. We've got, went ahead and I've cut this piece out, but it's spot welded in on this cross member right here. And this one has this real thick, rubbery plastic something, I don't know, but it's got some pretty heavy duty adhesive on it. And so what I've been doing, which seems to work pretty good, is just taking this torch and heating it up real good, and it just slides right off like butter. So we'll do all this and get this thing cleaned up, you know, heat it up real good, and then grab you a little putty knife and you can get in there and just scrape this stuff up and out of the way. And this way we can find those spot welds, so we can get those spot welds drilled out. So anyways, that's what we're doing at the moment, and we'll check back in with you here in a few minutes. Howdy. Fixing to get started on the back now. right, folks, so we got the driver's side floor pan cut out finally. I've heard people talk about the spot welds on these things being a bear. They ain't lying. Them things suck. It's not bad when the paint's still there and you can actually see the divot where the spot weld is. But whenever the floorboard's pitted and rusty and just, you know, barely holding on, you can't distinguish a pit from the actual spot weld. It's kind of a nightmare. So anyways, Jackson's over there getting ready to crank on that side. We're gonna be smart about it this time. We're actually going through with the paint pen and marking
Got that one.
all the spots that we can find. So you can see we've got, I mean, there's a ton of these things. This little plate right here threw me way off because it didn't make any dang sense until I looked up underneath it and saw that. So anyway, so this little plate kind of threw me off, but there's, you know, there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like there's an 8, 9, 10 spot welds on just this one little spot. No, wait, there's 11, maybe 12. So there's a lot of spot welds on this little guy, but you got them running all the way down back to here, and you got them on this cross member, which we beat the piss out of, so we'll have to bend that back straight. But you can see them all down through here, and then you got a couple back here on this very back piece. So the bad news is, well, actually the good news is, the support is actually in really good shape. There's not a real problem with it. It's a little thin right here on this top edge, but I can cut that little piece out and just make a small patch for that. The rest of it's good and solid. So the rest of it I'm just going to clean up and hit it with some 415 rust stuff. The bigger problem is this stinking rocker panel. This inner rocker, I mean, you know, she got some holes in her, and got a big hole right in here, and then it's got holes on the front side a little bit too, and then also down here, like we already knew kind of that here on this kick panel we had some rot down in here. Again, it's a little crunchy, but it's not bad. It's not all the way through, so I can clean this up and salvage this. That's not a problem. I still got to get the seam seal off, but we got some rot. Yeah, we've still got some rot right in here. Once I get the seam seal off, I can get into it a little bit better and figure out what's going on. You know. Oh, yep, there's some crunch. Look at that. So, you know, there's some crunchy stuff, but it's not bad. It looks worse than it really is, but this spot right here, so I'm gonna have to cut these spot welds out and spot welds over here on this other side. So this metal's cut into my arm, but I gotta cut these spot welds and then cut the other spot welds on the other side of this piece, and then cut on back over here where fresh metal is. Oh, there's some, no, that's just a screw hole, but find some good fresh metal back here, cut this out, get this guy out of the way, cut out the metal on this rocker panel all the way out, and then clean up over here. In order to do that though, I will have to brace this cab up, since this is a main support for the cab, so we don't want any twisting or just a little shift in alignment on this thing. As long as these guys don't get taken out, you know, the front one and this back one, as long as these guys are in there, this thing ought to hold shape and not have to worry about it, you know, tweaking or twisting. But since I do have to pull this guy out, I'm gonna have to brace up at least this front part, just give it a couple little sticks of metal in here just to brace it up, so it don't twist or warp on me. But we'll figure out what to do down here. Yeah, we'll figure this guy out here in just a little while. First off, we got to get that pan out, and then we still got to cut this plate off where it's just, you know, Swiss cheese. This part's going to be difficult because nobody makes a patch panel for this, so I'm going to have to actually, you know, make this piece. It's also where the freaking seatbelt attaches, so seatbelt anchor point is right here. This is the Bluetooth model of seatbelt attachment points. So I guess the next thing we're going to do, once we get that piece of the floor cut out over there, once we get this floor cut out over here, then we'll start pulling all this trim off so I can get to behind this panel and figure out what the heck's going on there. Then we can get this piece cut out. This drive shaft tunnel, that thing's garbage. It's so thin and so weak. I'm just going to cut it out and just put something else in there. It's not going to be a standard drive shaft tunnel right there. I'll probably just have, I got some old scrap metal sitting over there. I'll just take and just put some bends in it just to put it in there. Again, it's not a show truck. It's just something that's going to be a nice, clean driver for my son that'll last him for years. So we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for good enough. But anyways, we're going to take and go ahead and get this pan out, get that pan out. We got to do a little rush repair over there where that seatbelt mount is. It's not nearly as bad, but it's still kind of rough. We got to get that little corner, and we're going to replace this whole header piece right here. So anyways, we'll join back up with you here in just a little while. Smoldering. Where are we at? There he is. Where are we smoking? It's still smoldering somewhere.
Really?
Yeah.
That's not good.
No, it's not. Whew. There's part of it. All right, folks, little word of warning. I don't know if the smoke showed up on the camera or not, but all this really fine fibrous stuff, you kind of see it. Yeah, that stuff catches a spark really well. Also, you may want to have some sort of water spray or fire extinguisher around, because of the jute coating that's up on the firewall. That stuff likes catching sparks. So we actually had a little fire going on over here on the firewall. The only way to really get that cleared out to where I don't have to worry about catching fire, and it's behind the heater boxes where it ended up catching on. The only way to do that's actually going to be to pull out the heater core and this whole entire assembly. So we'll do that, but we're just not going to do that right now. So we're just going to move to doing the backside. Just kind of get away from that, and we're going to make sure it's not still smoldering. But we're going to get back here and get to cutting this back in. So we'll catch back up here in just a minute. All right, folks, that's going to do it for today, at least for this episode. I tell you, these floor pans, they are a bear. So, you know, these little spot welds, they're not too hard to find whenever there's paint there. But when you start dealing with that pitted, really pitted rust, you can't distinguish where a spot weld is and where it's just really rusty. But we got the front one out. Don't mind that. I just set it there to kind of mock stuff up and see what she's going to look like. But we got the front out over here, got the rear out over here, got the rear out over there. I ended up having to dig out my Kevlar blanket and lay up across the dash and everything because it kept catching fire. So I think what I'm gonna have to do is, if you look back at the last episode we did where I pulled the heater core out for Big John, I get to do it again. So we're gonna pull the heater core out, pull all that really extremely flammable stuff out, and at least, you know, keep from burning down the well, burning down the K5 and burning down the shop. So thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. If you could hit that like and subscribe button, that helps out. Stay tuned, because we're going to do a lot of stuff with this K5. You know, it's my son's first truck, so he's out here helping and learning as we go. So tune in next week. We'll get into something else, I'm sure. So anyways, I do appreciate it. Y'all guys have a good day, and just remember, it ain't got to be perfect, just good enough. Take it easy.